I have seen one white fox in South Australia, ran across the road in front of me, and I went about 15 foot off the road trying to get it.
So that's the thing about coriander, you don't need to chop it up to put it in the bin.
And then this was the first one I'd ever seen, and it's like showing a guy from the 1800s an iPhone.
No, I didn't. I was being real lazy. It was late in the night. I was tired. I wanted to go to bed.
I think probably one of the best things that, you'll know straight away is just sitting on a hill with a caller out and a pair of binos or a thermal and just shooting foxes.
No.
So there's the two things that I don't do at sushi. It's the ginger and the wasabi. And like always when you go to dinner with like somebody, there's always one dude that's like, oh, you're gonna have the ginger? No, and they just eat it and you just think, what's wrong with you, dude? Like,
So
it tastes horrible. Do you eat coriander?
No, coriander is like soap.
It's
like
horrible.
eating soap.
Yeah, I'm
Can
not
you
a
eat
big,
it?
No,
No,
can't eat it.
no.
It's like, for me, it honestly tastes like licorice, and I hate licorice.
Oh, I like licorice. Yeah, we should taste like licorice.
Yeah, I don't know why it tastes like that, but
Like if there's a salad this big and there's like half a leaf.
Yeah, no, I'm out.
I've got it. Like it's in my mouth and it's ruined the meal. Like
I agree. And
just go home and cry about it.
no coriander.
Yeah.
I always remember like when you get the dog rolls, like you're ordering and like no coriander because they ask you. But then like sometimes you get like pad thai or something on those lines.
And you forget.
And you forget.
And there's one of those little nuggets in it. It's
and you
ruined the whole
get
thing.
it and you're like, oh, my life is over. That's just.
We were in Brisbane a couple of months ago and they said, oh, we're getting Chinese. Does anyone want anything? Yeah, what have they got? Oh, they do duck rolls.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like,
Magic.
Hell yeah.
I'll get Peking duck rolls. Sick.
Yeah.
Just tell them no coriander. They were already pre-made, so there's coriander in it. However, it was chopped so fine and mixed with everything else, you couldn't not eat it.
Why
And it was just,
chop it up? I've never understood that.
it was like finely minced.
So that's the thing about coriander. You don't need to chop it up to put it in the bin. You can just put it straight in the bin without chopping it up. Save yourself heaps of effort.
The press.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should introduce you, Mark. You're Mark, and everyone's just worked that out.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about what you do and what keeps you busy and
How
your
tall
interest
you
in
are.
So
shooting.
seven,
tall you are?
So yeah, for those
How tall you are?
For those that know me, for those that don't know me, my name's Mark. I'm 7'2". I'm 7'2". For those that do know me,
He's talking in
for
inches, people.
those that do know me,
That's in metric systems.
for those
still,
that know
somehow.
me, that know me, just please keep your mouth shut. So so I'm the
Also, speak up louder because you can't hear you from down here.
I'm the Southern Regional Manager for a company called Ground Force International. We're the importers for a few brands like Knockpicks, Infraray, Safari Sticks, Real Avid, and a few other products. Yeah, do gun safes and knives, torches, and pretty much anything you'd use in the field.
You just said before you're getting a new optic in as well.
Yeah, so we've got the we just picked up the agency for Swamp Fox.
Yep.
So, everything from low-powered variable optics, LPVOs, to red dots, and some of the long-range stuff. So, if you've got a pump action or anything quick shooting or long-range rifle, optics to suit.
That's the stuff, yeah.
Sweet.
But we go back further than that because how long have you been doing that for now, Mark?
So I started in the gun industry as a part-time when I was a
we're going all the way back. All right,
as
here
a
we go.
junior. But we met quite a while ago. Back in would have been around 2014, 2015.
Yeah,
Would have
somewhere
been
in there.
when you were doing Impact Dynamics and you started doing the
Long-range shooting stuff. Yeah, it would have been
Long-range
2016 or something. And you were working at Gunco.
working at Gunco in St Albans, in Melbourne.
Melbourne, and Dave Acker, our
Dave Acker.
Canadian friend.
yeah.
Was it Dave who hooked it up?
Yeah, I think Dave had come into the shop a few times and we were talking. He's like, "Oh, I've got," he had to send something and pick something up, and he nominated us for you to pick it up at, and we were talking, and it was the first time we'd met. And
No, it was the
Andy had done some
info night.
PRS.
We did an info session with Beretta, and I came in to talk long-range shooting, and you were the long-range shooting guy in the shop.
Yeah, at the time, that was quite a while back.
Yeah, which is weird because most people would think of you as a short-range shooter, but
Yeah,
that would be...
yeah.
That would
Once
be,
again, for those that know me,
7'2".
7'2". Yeah.
7'2".
7'2".
7'2".
Surprised we could fit you in here.
Double doors to get me in.
Where'd your interest in shooting come from?
So interesting shooting probably started from when I was probably when I was really young. I always liked playing gun games and first person shooters and third person shooters and everything, and always had this passion for the army.
What is a second person shooter? I've always wondered that. We've got first and third.
So as a
Is it a person that gets shot?
No, it's when you're not an only child and you got brothers and sisters, and you get to watch them play first person shooters. So, as a child of multiple siblings, yeah, that's where you get to watch your brothers play PlayStation, and you get to hold the controller. Yeah. That's a second player shooter. Yeah. Second person shooter.
I grew up with a sister, so I never had to go through that.
Yeah. She was the second. She was the second. Yeah. So.
Right. I grew up as an only child, but I had a mirror, so I guess.
So you had the controller the whole time.
Both. Yeah, second and third.
That's it. Yeah, no
what
sharing.
A dream.
That's it.
What a dream team.
No sharing. Yeah.
No sharing. Yeah.
So just watching my brothers play games growing up, I was like, the shooting games always had piqued my interest, and there was a
too short to join the military, I guess.
Too short to join the military, and
too tall. I mean, too tall. Sorry.
Yeah, laying down. So basically. Started going to a local gun shop, and I tried to get a job at the local gun shop, and they said, yeah, come in after school 1 day a week or 2 days a week, and work on the weekends, and come clean up the shop, like wipe down things and stuff, and can't touch anything gun related, but you can tidy things up here and there, and it was kind of just something I loved, and when I got to the time where it was a full-time gig, and they got the offer, I went into it full-time and kind of never left the industry. Loved it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
When you do something you love, you never feel like you're working a day.
Yeah.
Haven't worked a day yet.
We make you work.
Yeah.
Have you and so hunting, target shooting? What's sort of
hunting, target shooting, pest control. So shooting foxes and roos is one of my real passions. I used to do a lot of long range shooting. Steel plates were kind of something that was only really coming out later, and you'd have to go out there and have a look at the targets, and but. That kind of stuff transitioned to CQB stuff, so like close quarters kind of thing, doing a bit of IPSC, and nice. had my pistol phase and did pistols, and then got into clays and went through all of it, and kind of just tried to see what all of it was about really over the years. So I've had my phases over the years of different shooting disciplines and done a bit of everything. But I think probably one of the best things that and you'll know straight away is just sitting on a hill with a caller out and a pair of binos or a thermal and just shooting foxes.
Yeah,
there's just not like I've done it all, and I'll tell you now I think that's the one for me. Just
shooting foxes is king.
Just railing foxes.
Yeah, right.
Speaking of shooting foxes, I shot one of the prettiest foxes I've ever seen on the weekend.
Did you skin it by any chance?
No, I didn't. I was being real lazy. It was late in the night. I was tired. I wanted to go to bed.
I would have frozen the whole thing.
Yeah, I was away. I went away for a weekend. So I will go back to the property because we shot a couple there, and they all had really, really nice capes.
Colours or just condition?
Just condition. Just absolutely perfect. I was quite surprised. I didn't think they'd be that good in the area.
Yep.
But
how far in SA?
Southeast, yeah.
Southeast.
SA.
They've been getting rain? Have they been all right?
No.
They haven't?
No.
Yeah, okay.
It was just dirt, which was why I was shocked that they were in such good condition. But quite a few around. So we shot a few foxes, a few rabbits, and but just a perfect condition fox.
Yeah, right.
I do want to mount one next year.
Okay.
I've used my mounter. I'm allowed one mount a year.
Is that a wife restriction?
That's a wife or a future wife restriction.
Okay.
So I've used my one mount up for this year on a.
It's rough. She only lets you mount once a year.
No, I haven't used it up this year. That was last year.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Fresh,
ready
to go.
Year. So
wedding mount.
I'm going to mount a fox this year.
Sounds great.
As in yourself, or as in do you want
no,
taxidermy?
I'll send it off to a taxidermist. Yeah.
I was gonna say,
I convinced my taxidermist to do it for me when I was over there last year or the year before. I was like, do you mount foxes? He was like, I hate doing foxes. I was like, bugger. Who would you recommend to do a fox? He's like, me. I'm like, will you do me a fox then? He's like, 3 conditions.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. I got to send him a photo of the fox.
Yep.
It's got to have a white tip tail.
Yep.
And I can't remember what the third one was.
Can't be alive when you bring it to me. All taxidermists usually have that.
It's got to be done and dusted.
He's in the box. Yeah. I didn't feed him yesterday. He's in the box.
He's keen.
He's keen. He's a lot more aggressive than you think he is. Yeah. I was making fun of him on the way here.
Cool.
It's a long trip to take him over to Tasmania, but
Stoney, is it?
Yeah. You know Stoney?
Sure do.
Yeah, he's a good bloke.
Yeah. I'll be over there with him next month.
Oh yeah.
Next month.
Rev him up about my Samba, will you?
I will.
And the fox.
And the fox.
If you want to take anything over, I'm going over. I'll take it for you.
I might have to go shoot a fox.
I think you might. Let's go now.
Are you into taxidermy, Mark? Is that
No, I'm not. I've got a friend who does taxidermy. His name's Peter. He's really talented. Like, so, starting out, he used to basically just do. He actually used to do a bit of work experience with us on the weekends, just do some cleaning and just general hands, especially in archery. Really good in archery, and he just one of those guys who just took to archery. Just loved it, got the dynamics of it. Was really good. And then he's a keen hunter. His dad's really like generational hunter as well.
Yeah, right.
And it basically just turned into a thing where he was doing some from home and just doing some skins, and then it progressed from there. And he's very talented. He does birds. He does he does all types of things. So whether it's a duck or quail. Like, and you look at a lot of other taxidermies. Oh yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it looks like it. Then you see some of his, and it's like, all right, the kid's special. Like there's some people that do their job, and then there's like, okay, you've got your own flavour. And it's really good. So
makes it look alive.
I'm actually waiting to shoot a white or a black fox.
Yep.
And then I'm going to get it done. So sad thing, funny and sad at the same time. One of our other mates who lives near the area that I shoot at, he shot a completely black fox about 2 years ago. He weighed it was 7.5 kilos. This thing was massive. I've got a photo of it. It's one of the biggest foxes you've ever seen. He shot it, and then he basically forgot to send me a photo of it. And then he was working the next day, night shift. He ended up sending me the photo for like 4 days later. And I said, straight away, go put it in the freezer.
Yeah.
Like, put it in the freezer straight away.
It's sitting in the paddock. What do you mean, put it in the freezer?
It had been 30 degrees for 5 days. He went out there and, it's a mess. So,
toast.
The second I see a black one or a white one, my wife's giving me the go, you get it mounted, and I'll get it sitting. Like a doorstop kind of thing, like a proud with a tail around its legs, kind of like sitting proud.
How you see them, you turn the caller on and they're like at 300 metres.
And they just sit down
and sit down and go,
nah. I'm not coming any closer.
No, mate.
I'm not that dumb. Yeah.
And they go, this is on you now.
Yeah. Take the shot, mate.
So I'll get one mounted, but
wicked. I have seen one white fox in South Australia.
It's
quite a few years ago now. It ran across the road in front of me. And I went about 15 foot off the road trying to get it, but I didn't.
Got the letterbox defence, but I didn't get the.
it was pretty close to some bushes and trees. But
that's cool.
Yeah, right. Well, I have certainly seen black ones. Don't remember if I've seen a white one, but
it wouldn't be common.
No, it's been a long time since I've done that.
I've never seen a black one.
Yep,
just a white one. But one day,
team up and find both.
Yeah.
Yep. Can you get a zebra one? That'd be
cool.
Rad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd even taxidermy one of those.
You could probably just shoot a cat. And
That's just two cats sticky taped together. That's almost like those crap taxidermies, those pages where you see all those. The things that people did in the 80s and they did it themselves, and they're like, I did that myself, and you're like,
you can do
it.
No way. About that.
Have you seen the meat eater calendar that they do?
No.
They do a fucked up old taxidermy calendar.
That's fantastic.
That's great.
Yeah,
it's absolutely.
You see some good ones around the States.
I bet just in gun shops, just
So I cover Vic, Tas, South Australia, WA, and southern New South Wales. So there's quite a few stores there, quite a few shops, and there's quite a few bits that I can tell off the top of the head where, if you're going to do a road show to go to all the shops to see the taxidermy, there's a couple of absolute cherries in those shops where
a couple of worthwhile ones.
You do the homage to just go and see them just for the taxidermy.
Just for a good laugh.
Just for a great laugh.
There's
get a photo with it. Look, hey.
A couple of second-hand shops in Tasmania when I was over there, and there was some horrific red deer and fallow over there.
Yeah.
And you look at the price tag and they're like $1,500, and it's like, I can go shoot a red deer,
Pay for
have
the
it
trophy,
taxidermied,
and it'll be cheaper.
and it'll be cheaper and nicer.
And it won't look like that.
Yeah.
What does a taxidermy like ballpark cost for a
So
'cause
Stony
deer.
charges about $900 for a red deer,
Okay.
about $800 for a fallow, I think.
yeah, right. Okay.
And we'll find out how much for a sambar at some point,
And a fox.
and a fox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
the fox is like the $20,000.
It's I think he said around about $1,000 for the fox.
Okay.
So it's smaller than a deer, but a lot more
Yeah.
complicated because you're talking about a
Gotcha.
full mount.
And I guess it all depends on how it's mounted and all that
Yeah,
sort of thing. So it would
exactly,
vary.
yeah.
But,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, prices vary.
Yeah,
depending-
people are generally quite
things.
surprised about the costing. Like people think it's going to be thousands and thousands of dollars to have it done, but it's actually not too bad.
Not too bad. Yeah, okay. Mark's mate charges way more.
Oh, it depends. It depends.
Depends if it's marked
It,
or not.
it depends on the animal. Like
Double figure.
Yeah.
it depends. Like all over the country. There's anywhere between $900 and $1,200, $1,250. And that's all the different types of animals. Like so, ducks and birds are less. They're about $350. You get a nice set of quail. Like if you shoot Victoria quail season, and you get a couple of quail, you get like a small mount where there's 2 or 3 together.
Yep.
They look really good. Like you get something like that, or duck season.
Yeah.
You shoot a shoveler or something like that. And you want to get something. You say, yep, that's something. Want to hang it on the wall.
That's it. Well, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about thermals a bit tonight, because obviously that's
Yes.
a big part of your day job. Mark is a big part of my day job, and
It's a
Maxwell,
big
for
part of
you,
my night job.
It is a big part of your night job.
Yep.
And I thought, we've touched on it bits and pieces, but Mark, do you remember your first experience with a thermal?
I reckon I can tell exactly when it was, and I can tell you exactly who it was and exactly what it was.
Go ahead then.
Basically, the first time I'd ever seen a thermal would have been probably about in, I'd say, 2000 and maybe 4 or 5 as a junior in the shop. A guy had come in, and he was known by the shop owner, and the shop owner always was talking about this guy having all the coolest technology, and he was in the army and he was out of the army and everything. And he had brought in a scope, and the scope is called a Raytheon.
Oh, yeah.
And it's this big old grey dinosaur. And it had the most interesting eyepiece I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It was basically a rubber bezel on the back of it that when you compressed it against your eye would pop open so you could see the screen. So when you pull it away from your eye, the rubber closes and doesn't show your light on
Was
it.
that night vision?
No, it was an actual thermal.
was thermal.
I
So-
like that eye cup idea.
It was just mind blowing, and I remember playing in video games, and it was in video games and everything. But then this was the first one I'd ever seen, and I just thought, wow, this is crazy. And the guy was pointing it around, and I was looking through it and had a bit of a play with it, and I thought, wow, this is the future. And I think, the guy was like, oh yeah, that's $75,000. Like the government buys these for, $75,000 a piece.
Yeah.
Crazy exorbitant pricing.
Snuck one off the base one day.
Just brought one because he could. So it was a really first mind blowing where I was like, wow, that's out there. And I remember,
Was it good? Did it look, or did you?
it was
did it look
okay.
cool?
It was similar to the equivalent of these days, like a 256 size sensor.
Yeah, okay.
So, but it had a slower refresh rate. So it was like a 256. So you got in about 300 and 400 meters of usable, realistic usable. But the refresh rate was probably around about that 25 to 30 frames per second. So,
Yeah.
there was a bit of a lag in it. But, I believe those Raytheons were mid 90s produced. So you're talking about the real first commercial style stuff that was
far
kind of getting out into the market. But yeah, after that it was, the real thing was when ATN, which was actually brought in by Ground Force, the company I work for now, they brought ATN in, and ATN was known for their 4K night vision and their night vision system.
Yep.
And that was kind of like the first, hey, electro-optics are now here. Seeing the dark, what is this? It was crazy. It was a massive thing. And then shortly after, they brought out these thermals. And, by all means, the same thing. A $7,000 unit in 2010, a $7,000 or $10,000 is the equivalent of a $800 or $900 unit now.
Yeah.
Like, the technology's rapidly changed over the years, but, I remember when I had to plug them all in to log onto the website to upload the firmware and update them. Now you just do it all from your Samsung, just with your iPhone, just boom, 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 straight in. Yep, it's updated. Awesome. You got like you're in the paddock.
And where you go, yeah.
Before I had to, you sit in front of a desktop to do it. So
yeah, that's a bit crazy for me because I was very late to the game. I'm a late onset hunter. I shot my first fox when I was 25, I think.
Yep.
Like I'd done a lot of shooting before that and just never stuck with it and anything like that. But yeah, for me it was probably shortly after I met you.
Really? For thermals?
For thermals, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, most of my shooting previous to that was spotlighting. Yeah, and then you've absolutely ruined me.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all right.
What do you remember the first? You don't remember your first?
No, I would say it was probably a Pulsar unit.
Okay.
It's my first night vision I bought was a Pulsar DigiSight, which is now discontinued. Yeah.
They were a really innovative unit when they came out.
Yeah,
they were a very good unit.
I still love mine.
Yeah,
I still use it weekly.
10 years on from when they came the first on the market.
Yeah,
they're still a great alternative.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah, good scopes.
I reckon mine was with I don't remember my I'm sure I probably put eyes on something prior, but the old podcast we used to have was a guy on that called Greg Bagco, and he bought a Pulsar Trail.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thermal, and that was probably the first one. That's definitely the first one I hunted with.
First gen, so no LRF.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think he upgraded. Like, I think he had the first one and then upgraded.
Yeah.
Big bulky box looking thing.
Yeah, that's
6
right.
kilos, this big. Yeah.
And I remember going out and looking and just being like, we can't see this absolute thing. Yeah. They can't see us. And look through this thing, you're like, oh, it's just rabbits everywhere. Like, there's just... And then the first time we pulled the trigger and the rabbit just decorated the shrub behind it, and you're like,
perfect.
Oh, okay, this is how it is.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how it looks after you shoot them.
Yeah.
Can't see that in the spotlight.
This is what happens. And yeah, obviously it's rapidly become a huge part of hunting.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think from exactly what you were saying there, I think where it's become something, I think the more the stigma around, spotlighting and, as farms get smaller and people move closer out to the bush to get away from the city that they love so much, swinging around a spotlight starts becoming more and more, hey, that's not okay. That makes people, there's people swinging around a light, which means they're swinging around a loaded gun at the same time. Like, there's that bit of stigma from some people. So, we go out on a night and you might only be shooting 200-300 meters from a house or, a kilometre from a house. And, we'll be scanning the paddocks all the way around past the houses, everything. And there's
no one will ever know
there's
you're there.
no light noise. There's no worry about it.
Yep.
There's no, you can safely go and do your job and then come home and not impose on anybody. There's no worry from anyone. And
actually, Greg bought the thermal because he was doing exactly what you're talking about. He was getting access to smaller properties that were sort of more
closer into
the city, and still big enough to shoot on with like a 2-3 or whatever. But and you're not sort of flashing that light around, and you would take the shot, and you take one shot and knock a fox down.
Yeah.
So exact same reason he would do it. Wouldn't really use it a lot out on the bigger properties we'd shoot on. Because it wasn't that good and you couldn't see that far with it.
Covering ground with a thermal isn't the easiest thing from a vehicle either, unless someone's standing on the back or you've got a, I guess back then, dedicated mounted screen in the car wasn't really a thing yet.
No,
the binoculars weren't capable of driving at 60 k's on a spotlight handle and just watching your screen.
That stuff kind of really all developed in the last 5 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Like as we're watching the technology progress in our, I'd say in our sport in general, but as it's changing in our sport in, pest eradication and, that kind of night activity work where you're, previously you go shooting and the sun comes down or you do a couple hours of spotlighting and then you're done. A lot of the nocturnal animals that you'd be targeting these days though, you've got the option to go out and spotlight. So, about 5 years ago, InfoRay started producing units with HDMI output for instance,
Yep.
like the Finder series.
Yeah.
Knowing that you're going to be wanting to HDMI output a 4K, live 1080 feed into a monitor. And that was kind of like the start of the whole craze of spider bots, screens. You're driving around spotlighting the exact same as you would with a normal light, but it's in pitch black.
Yeah.
So, you're cruising around your Parkers on the track, just infinite visibility around you. That kind of was the first time I'd seen the amazement of, hey, hang on a second, this is crazy. And I think I was actually still using a Finder, and I was still using my ATN night vision. Yeah. And it was a thing where we were out and we're like, oh yeah, there's one out there. It's 430 meters. It's a fox, guaranteed. A lamb doesn't run like that. That's definitely a fox. And you pull the night vision out and you're just like, where is it? It's there. What's going on here? And then you go back to the thermal and it's like, I wish this was in the optic.
Yeah. Okay.
And then as we shot foxes, and so I'm from Vic, so we use our Fox Scalp money to buy more toys. Yep. Do like your tax return. You don't tell your wife about that because that's for your toys. So
that's how you earned that income.
That's it. Yeah. So that Fox money went back into buying thermals, and our first purchase for me and a friend of mine, we put our money together and buy a unit. We bought a TH50 version 1 infrared. Yep. And we went out.
How many foxes is that? Just out of curiosity.
Well, they're $10 a piece. They were $10 a piece until
Fox, not the thermal.
Until it was January this year. They put them up to $14.50.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So
huge jump.
So last year we shot 420 foxes.
Far out.
Me and Trav. So we put all our money together and we upgrade stuff. But our first scope was a TH50 V1, and I remember we went out and we sighted in. We on his old Seiko, he's got a 491, and we shot one of the tightest groups we've ever seen out of this thing. And we were like, you know what? This thing's like, we're crack on here. Yeah. And we went out that night with a farmer who'd pretty old school farmer, I've been on the property for years. Most we ever get was 4 on a night with a spotlight, and that was a good crew. Well, we went out that night with a thermal on the roof, thermal on the gun. Yeah. We shot 7, and he was just in. This guy, it was like showing a guy from the 1800s an iPhone. He was just. He goes, you know what, you guys can come whenever you want. go, just do your thing. Yeah, so we still shoot on Pete's property, and it was just the first night we went out, we shot it, and we were driving home just looking at each other like, that's $70, man. like that's $70. Yeah. Like
we're gonna be rich.
When you're a kid and you get a Nerf gun for the first time, you're like, I'm gonna conquer the world with this thing. This holds the power to that's what we're like. We're like, wow, $70 like that. Yeah. So it took us about 6 months, and we had like we had a $4,000 scope basically, 3/4 paid off. Yeah. And we're like, man, this is killer. So that was probably the first time that I had done the whole thermal, and since then it's just gotten, I started working for the company now, and it's become.
So you bought that prior to?
I bought that prior to. Yeah, I bought that prior to. Okay. So, we went for the whole night vision, and then you move to thermal because you're at natural progression, and then it was just it's been a habit ever since. Expensive habit.
I still use a lot of night vision. A lot of my hunting is on smaller properties. Yeah. And for identification purposes, like I've literally would have shot my neighbour's dog by now if I just used thermal. Yeah. Because their staffy runs out on my place all the time in the middle of the night chasing rabbits. I know.
They'd only run out there once if you'd shot it.
Exactly.
They won't do it more than once.
They won't do it more than once. But
I'm a cat person, by the way.
I'd feel like a terrible person.
What's a taxidermy on one of them?
Taxidermy on a staffy?
Yeah.
They probably might appreciate getting it back in some form. I don't know. Probably about $1,000.
Be quieter.
He'll never run away from you.
No, they won't. They won't have to have the little zap fence up or anything like that.
Save some money on
But
food.
so for risk purposes on that sort of thing, I still run a lot of night vision.
Do you find that, Maxwell, on like better quality thermal, that perhaps would be less of a concern? Like if you're running like a 1280 or something sensor.
I think you would be able to tell like a dog from a fox, but in the heat of battle,
Okay.
When you see something running in, you're like, there's a fox, and you're on a smaller property and you've got limited window to shoot things. Whether you let that click in your mind that doesn't quite look like a fox, or it's got a tail and it runs like a four-legged canine.
Yeah, I would have thought a 1280 is going to give you so much detail.
I think that's another thing. The more time you spend with thermals, like I've been using for so long now, like I'll be looking around, I'm like, hey, there's two roos laying down. And like, no, it's a fox. That's a roo laying down.
Yeah.
No, it's a fox.
Yeah, 100%.
No, it's a roo laying down at 180 metres. No, it's a fox, it's 40. Drive over there and sure enough, the roos get up and run away. Like, you know, even in a 256 to a 1280.
Actually, if they got up and run away, they might actually be foxes.
Well, I'll put it this way. The 1280s and stuff that are on the market these days, they're, you know, the clarity is basically a glass optic in your thermal. And it's just amazing that as the technology goes on, and now they've got AI in them and everything that, you know, scrubs the image.
Yeah, all the image scrubbing stuff is getting out of hand. The firmware that you see, like from change to like each update you see, the image is completely different. Even in the 640s, like I noticed in my Axion, I was out and I updated in the field and I was like, this is a different
already. It's better.
This is a different scope. Like I've just gone out and spent another 5,000, but it's just an update. It's amazing. I've forgotten his name. The guy was talking about that the other day at the demo we went to.
Oh, Clint.
Clint about the updates on that.
Taya's partner.
Sorry?
Taya's partner.
No, not him.
Oh,
no, another person.
We'll come back to that, I'm sure.
Yeah, we will get back to that one.
For someone who is starting, I mean, we may as well talk about with you here, someone who's starting in thermal, like a couple of key things for them to know, like where do you, I mean, you deal with new people in thermal.
Yeah, look, I'm selling it for a long time, you know, doing a lot of demo nights, like a lot of people recognise me from knock picks and infrared demo nights.
Depends how high the table is that you stand behind.
Yeah, usually I've got a milk crate anyway. But I'm 7'2", by the way. So no.
Anyone who's tracking along?
Yeah.
7'3" on a good day.
Yeah, 7'3" if it's windy. So basically, I try to tell people when you're looking at a new thermal, like if you're investing, look at what your budget is, and that's a key way that I've always sold. Like, so when I was at the gun shop, you know, spent 10 years at Gunco behind the counter. So, you know, I've been there for all of it, and I've seen it all and done it all. Always work with your budget, with what you're doing, but don't be afraid to have a look at what's just up from your budget.
Just up, yeah.
Because a lot of the time, you know, as us guys, we buy things, we're either two types of shoppers. We're either straight to the top, where you'll just say, I'm going to buy this, and you go full on and spend everything you've got on it, or you buy what they call...
Maxwell's nodding in.
Yeah. There's definitely one of all of them here tonight.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
yeah, and then you get the other guys that are like, look, I'm happy to spend $1,000 or $2,000.
Yep.
But when you put a price in your head as a bloke, like how we buy stuff, there's always that price where you say, yeah, I'm not going to spend over that, because you've set that budget in your head. But sometimes the crucial point would be just on the other side of it. Yeah. So for instance, with one of our units, we've got the Lumi little monoculars. So, you know, for an extra $300 or $400, you go from a standard unit to one with a laser rangefinder.
Yeah.
Now, that's always a real key thing when you're going to buy a monocular, and I talk a lot about it at demo nights. I say, you know, for those that want to know, like, what would you be looking at? Where would I buy my laser rangefinder? Do I want it in the scope, or do I want it in my monocular?
Yep.
Now, the way I explain to people is, if you're shooting deer or something where it's a single shot situation, where, you know, one shot's going to make the difference, or it's a controlled environment where it's one target that's going to be engaged, I'd always go for the monocular to have your rangefinder. So you'd be walking around, range it, it's 240. I know I'm not going to engage it. Walk. You got closer, range it, it's 110. I'm confident at that distance.
Yep.
Put the monocular down, reach from a firearm, up, thermal on. I now know that's 110 meters. Engage the target. If I was shooting something that's moving around a lot, so say it's a rabbit or a fox, or if I'm shooting like a mob of kangaroos for the professional contract guys, always the rangefinder would want to be in my optic, in the rifle. So, you know, you'd say you're doing some tripod shooting, say you're using on a cooler, fox is very active, right? So you miss that shot and he bolts, he's going to stop. He's always going to stop and look back. They just can't help it. But when they stop and look back, I know he might have been at 100 meters when he stopped.
Yep.
Or what you do is you get on the gun. Yeah, it's 100 meters. You let a shot off. You miss. He runs. He's going to stop. So you cycle, wait for him to stop. He stops at 140. Now I know my holdover, or I know my ballistics. If you were going to have it in your monocular, when he stops, you've got to then monocular him. He's 140 and move back to the optic. Yeah. Same thing with a mob of kangaroos, or if you're shooting multiple targets. So say you're doing any pest work where you're maybe in a national park and you've got multiple deer or multiple, goats or something that you're going to be engaging. You come up on your first target, you engage it at 140 or 110 or whatever it be. Mm-hmm. You move to your next target, you can range it, and you know exactly you're right on. So having that rangefinder in the scope for multiple target situations is crucial.
Yeah.
What's your take on it, Maxwell?
Yeah, he's 100% right in that. I run rangefinders both in scope and monocular.
Balls deep in rangefinders.
I nodded that before. I just
money bags.
I just go all in on it.
Yeah.
Like there's definitely key. Like if you're just going out to shoot a meat animal, like a monocular and a rangefinder, perfect. Like, but if you're going to be targeting multiple animals, having that rangefinder to be able to take consistent shots.
Yep.
Whether you have to press the button again or you just set it in constant range and know your holdovers, it's the perfect situation really. A lot better than being under a spotlight and being like, oh, how far do you reckon it is? Oh, 100 meters. Well, that went really low. Try again, but now he's another 100 meters on.
25 meters low.
Yeah.
One of the questions I often ask people talking about the same thing is like, tell me more about your shooting, because often we'll find that people are thinking about one device, but will often end up with two, right? It's real common, monocular and a scope. And I often ask them, are they shooting by themselves or are they always shooting with multiple people? Because if they're out with more than one...
They should send their mates in to buy more optics.
Sure. But in that instance, I'd often recommend the monocular to have the LRF, because you've always got someone on the monocular, you've always got someone on the rifle. And so sort of to broaden out what you're talking, that person that's with the monocular can feed out to one, two, or three shooters.
Ranges,
updating ranges as they go along. So we'll agree with what you're saying. That's the one other question I ask.
There's another question that I get a lot, and Maxwell will probably be able to chime in as well on this one. A lot of people will always say like, hey, if I'm looking to buy my first thermal, am I buying a monocular or am I buying a scope?
Oh yeah, can see
and that is once again, it's a real situational thing, and you can break it down like, I know how I hunt. Maxwell knows how he hunts, and you can say, when I'm in the paddock, I know exactly what I do on a night when we go shooting. Yeah, because it's always kind of the same thing. You never really change up your style. What I tell people is, if you're going from a full spotlight setup, and you're currently driving around and you find them in a paddock, you turn your spotlight off, you get your rifle ready, turn your light on, and you're engaging those targets. If you're engaging the targets and you say for every 10 you find, you engage 7 or 9 or 7 to 9 of them and they're confirmed, I'd say get yourself a monocular, because the monocular will then increase the amount of subjects you're finding.
Yeah.
So for the foxes that aren't looking, ones that are coming across a paddock that you're not currently in, it'll give you that advantage to be able to turn the lights off, jump on the caller, bring them in. All right. If you were to say, hey, I'm currently going to a paddock, flashing around, finding thousands, but every single time I turn that light on to get a shot off, it's taking too long for me to acquire my target.
Yep.
Or as I'm engaging, for some reason, I'm getting misses. Whether that be that you're either holding too far over, too far under, or the conditions aren't suitable. Like, some guys don't have that the confidence to shoot or engage a target at 250 meters in the dark on the glimpse of a spotlight. I'd tell you then to go to an electro-optic. So you'd come into a paddock, flick your light. Yep, there's 2 foxes. Light off straight away, car off. Now all the hunt pressure's off. You bring out your electro-optic, bring your thermal on your rifle, and now's the engagement point. And that then, there's no hunt pressure. They don't know what's going on. The jig's not up, and you can take your time with it.
Yep.
Call them in or push them off.
That's exactly how I started. torch and night vision scope.
That's it.
Shine just head torch or a spotlight to find them, and then flick over to the
Then
night vision.
then full night mode.
Yeah, full night mode.
Yeah,
Either press up further to engage them, or if I was confident in where they were and I could take the shot.
Yep, fantastic.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
Lots of. There's so many options out there when it comes to it.
It's not wrong, but you know, the only thing I say to guys, like, you know, when we go to these nights and we do thermal nights and we talk in the general public or doing a show, and these guys are like right on the cusp of like, oh yeah, you know, my neighbour's got one and he's always shooting every night and everything, and you know, Rusty, you'll probably, I'm not sure about Maxwell, but as a dad, I'm massively loving some of the features that these things offer now, like the Wi-Fi to the screens. You know, where Wi-Fi to screens. Yeah. I'm constantly taking one of my sons or one of the thing, and we're at Spotlight. He's in the back seat, earmuffs on, iPad, and he can watch and be part of it. So when he grows up, it's like, yeah, man, you know, it's not a race to go and see what this technology, like he's part of it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So being able to have a junior shooter, or even if he's a junior shooter, you know, and he'll be, say he's a junior shooter and they're engaging out the passenger window, the driver can easily have an iPad streaming to the device to see what the junior can see. So yes, shoot, no shoot, or otherwise. And that technology gap to bring, you know, that kind of father-son time together, that's a real cool niche point that, you know, that you have.
You're not just getting screamed at in the spotlight.
Nah, just left. The other left. You know what I mean? Yeah. Can't you see it?
Spotlight on it.
Yeah, stop shaking. You know, you don't get yelled at so much anymore. So
when you're rolling back to the days when we spotlighted, I'm curious, who would you give the spotlight to? If there's 3 or 4 of you going out, who gets the spotlight?
I can answer for me.
Yeah. You can't answer for someone else.
No.
So usually when we used to go spotlighting, this is, you know, I was 18, 19, you know, first days of just cruising around. We had a night vision pair of binos we'd use, and that was about it. The spotlighting was always done by the driver, right? So the driver, because the passenger was always shooting. There was always 2 or 3 of us.
Yep.
But normally it was always the driver, because the driver was in charge of the whole operation. Shoot, don't shoot, spotlight, what to look at, where to turn it on, when not to turn it on. Yep. It was always that.
What if you go to the where you got guys on the back of the ute? Your driver.
We did a bit of that, but in the property that where we shoot, it's normally you're doing like 30, 40 k's an hour through dirt tracks around the farms.
Yep.
And it was having a spotlight up the top was not really a thing.
So we just took a break because Maxwell had to go to the toilet.
Yeah,
and
got a pregnant lady's bladder.
Needed to refill our drinks, but you have this little toy thing on your keys.
Yeah, I'll grab it. My little Domino. This little guy.
Yeah, it's some little guy. Yeah. I've seen him before, but I don't know what it is.
So Dominican was a character in roughly, I would have been about like 2005.
Yeah.
Somebody's, you know, like one of these just snap pop culture things had came out, and it was just this inanimate, giant, like scary looking bear thing, but it was just everywhere. So like, for instance, they had like, he'd randomly appear at like sporting events. It was at like the D1 GP, like the drift moto GPs and stuff.
Huge in car culture.
He was like, I think when I had my skull on, I had Dominican, you know, the seatbelt padded things there?
Yeah.
I had Dominican ones of those. They were brown and they had his face on it, and it was just like, just real pop culture. It was real.
I would have got
first
him when
one
I
I've
had
seen.
my S13.
Dude, that's the first one I've seen in years. And
yeah.
That's a cool thing.
That's been on there since I was 18.
Yeah.
Pushing into my 30s now.
Yeah.
I'm surprised how long he's lasted.
Yeah. One of my favourite sayings is, it's not the age, it's the miles.
Yeah.
Got some kilometres on him.
He's got some Ks
that little
on
bloke's got some kilometres on him.
Yeah, he's done some Ks, seen some things. Been all over Australia now.
So back
are we
to...
talking about Mark, or are we talking about...
yeah.
Probably both.
Bit of both.
Feel like it sometimes. So back to when you were talking about the your spotlighting.
Spotlighting. So for me, spotlighting was mostly me and my father-in-law.
Okay.
Because that's where I picked my shooting back up, was when I got together with my partner and started going out to their family farm.
Yep.
So a lot of the time we had an old Hilux that had a bench seat that we'd put in the back and a little rail across the top. Mm-hmm. And there'd be me, my brother-in-law and my father-in-law and possibly Caitlin as well. And generally it would be shooter on the back and a spotlighter on the back, or if it was just me and my father-in-law, he'd be sitting in the cab and I'd be sitting on the back freezing my ass off. Sometimes I'd get let in to use the heater for a while.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, it was very much just whoever was sort of had free hands would be on the spotlight.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, a lot of fox shooting and rabbits and such.
Yeah, right.
Same sort of thing, just roads around the paddock.
So you've got a core group of guys that you shoot with and all that, and do different things.
Most of my shooting now is by myself, but like there's people who come out with me, but most of it's night vision and thermal now. Cool. We don't do too much spotlighting. There's one property we go to, we'll run a spotlight just to find them. It's super rocky and thermals are not the...
Yeah, there's a lot of rock rabbits.
Yeah.
There's a lot of rock rabbits in those early thermals.
Does that change through like coming into winter and? Like,
over winter it's not too bad. You can run it on the roof, but over summer it's just horrible.
Yeah,
everything. Like, is it a fox? Isn't it? A fox?
2 in the morning, you got like a rock that big glowing like it's.
Yeah. You drive 800 meters. You're like, oh, we're gonna sneak up on this one. You pull up 400 meters away. All right, we'll walk up on it. It's a rock. You're like, yep. Got him, sucker. Yeah, classic. Yeah,
classic.
Absolutely classic. Yeah. God, hasn't moved in a while. It's probably just sleeping in the paddock or something.
So most of my shooting that I do with, is kind of like they're all different. With different mates of mine, I do different types of shooting.
Yep.
So, with one of my mates, George, I do target shooting. We go to the range and just, squash things off at 500 meters and just like, further even, 1,000-yard stuff is all with George, and then foxes with a mate of mine, Trav, and then one of my other mates, Rob, he loves shotguns. He's the shotgun guy. So, like, we'll go shoot clays. And it's like, I've got mates for different sports.
We're going to have to get you in on one of our clay days when we have them.
Yeah.
I'm down.
I'll come shoot at them, no worries.
I haven't shot clays for so long.
I've got 150-something clays sitting at my house waiting.
Perfect.
So.
Yeah, mate.
Yeah.
That's grouse.
Yeah.
Clays is good fun.
I do enjoy clays. Yeah, I miss doing clays.
Yeah.
That's what got me back into shooting when I was 21. Was shotgun shooting.
Yep.
Yep. It was. Have I told you this story about when my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, came out and shot a shotgun for the first time?
No, don't think you have.
So I don't remember what's on this podcast on the last one, because I'm sure I put it on the last one. But we went out. So I'd just come back from England. I'd spent time over there shooting, and that sort of rekindled my interest in it.
Yeah.
Came back and I took her out and a mate of mine who was a break dancer, pretty fit dude, strong dude. And so I grabbed the shotgun and I put it in her hand and got it, sort of got position right, sort of got behind it, leaned into it, did all the right things to take care of it. I'm like, all right, and I'm going to stand behind you, just in case it sort of knocks you back a little bit. She stood there, took the shot. We were just shooting like the dirt, basically, just to get used to it. She pulled the trigger, didn't move, just rocked back and forth as you do. And I'm like, well done, perfect, exactly right.
That's it, nailed it.
Well done. Grabbed the shotgun, loaded up, gave it to Andy, gave it to him. He grabs it. I'm like, you should just hold it really tight, mate. He's like, yeah, no worries. Boom, 3 or 4 paces back. He's like, whoa. I'm like, okay. And it taught me a lot about technique. It's all technique. It wasn't necessarily strength. But man, to see him nearly fall on his ass and my girlfriend at the time was all over it.
Yep, nailed it.
So I married the one.
So you knew, you knew which one to marry out of the two of them? Yeah.
No, that's it. Yeah, no, it wasn't into the break dancer anymore.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Classic. It's grass.
Yeah, no, shotguns are good fun.
Yeah, shotguns are good. Do you do much hunting with a shotgun?
To be honest, not really. Like, I've got my duck ID and, get the quail endorsement every year and go. Normally it's 1 or 2 times a year, I bust the shotgun out, but there was a big period there for probably, it would have been almost like 9 years of I was just doing pistol or I was doing rifle where I was like, I just don't have time for a shotgun.
Yeah.
And then, as the boys say, let's go quail opening. well, let's go for some quail. Come out. And like, all right, I'll come. Yeah, go out and then it's like, you really enjoy it. And then it's like, that night it's like, ooh, it's foxes. Go shoot foxes instead. Do you know what I mean?
Time to break the rifle out.
Yeah. So not useless with a shotgun, but I don't know. I think it's probably that recoil thing. Like some people love it, and I don't mind it, but you do a round of clays, and you're like, oh, this shoulder's a bit crap.
I'd much rather fire 50 rifle shots than 50 shotgun shots. That's for sure.
Yeah, right.
100%.
I because it started with shotguns, and when we were hunting, it was all shotgun was hunting.
Was that in the UK?
So when I went over to the UK when I was 21, I was there for 3-4 weeks or something. My parents took me over, and I went to a place in Norfolk, right? So if you know a map of England, it's the bit that juts out on the sort of right-hand side.
On the side.
And we stayed on this farm, and I was going to be there for like 2 nights and then going down to London by myself for 3 or 4 nights.
Partying.
Yeah, exactly right. And I got to this farm, and the guy's like, oh, there's rabbits just outside. We're in the kitchen. And he's like, yeah, get them. I'm like, okay. So he just grabbed a shotgun, opened the window and goes, go, have a go.
Perfect.
Oh, okay. So from the kitchen.
You're serious. You were serious.
And so then we went for a walk with the shotguns, and like he basically had this paddock next to the house block, and that was, he didn't farm on it. It was just there to go and shoot rabbits and such.
Wow.
And so we wandered around that, and I remember I'm like, this is great. Like I hadn't shot for a number of years. I shot when I was younger, and then I always liked it, but girls and cars and music and stuff gets in the way through high school. And then it's like, this is great. So I canned my trip to London, and just turned it down to like a one-nighter or something on those lines, and just stayed in Norfolk for nearly a week. And just shot. And then my other cousin took me out as well, and he went out with a rifle, but it was the intro to shotgun hunting, and I really enjoyed it. Enjoyed it, and then sort of came back, and that's how we hunted until I started working actually at Night Force, and started, people were like, oh no, stop the car, you can hit that from here. Like, we can hit that from here. We don't have to just drive out like a madman. We don't have to drive out.
No, we can get close enough.
Yeah, we can get close enough to. Yeah.
Anything's close when you got a Night Force on it.
That's it.
That's something I learnt early enough.
Oh yeah.
When I booked my first Night Force, I was talking to a couple of guys and talking about long range scopes, and I was like, look, and anyway, in the game, bought an 8-32, strapped it on top of my my 300 Win Mag, and I was like, this is too much zoom. What am I going to do with this? Then you're out at 1,000. You're like, oh, that's what it's for. Yeah, that's what it's for. It's just here,
Hit rabbits at 500.
1,000 looks pretty close at 32 times zoom. Like it's not that far. So
what sent you down the long range shooting path? What was the interest?
I think playing, once again, playing games as a kid. I think
you could always being a sniper was cool.
Yeah, being a sniper was cool. There's always the option of, do you want the machine gun and the rocket launcher, heavy guy, or do you want the assault rifle and the pistol, or do you want the pistol and the sniper rifle on the gun games?
Yep.
And I was like, a Delta Force, sniper rifle, a knife, and a handgun. You're either really far away or really close.
Yeah.
And
there's no in between.
Yeah, and claymores. There's no it's either hand to hand or you're 10 kilometers away.
Yeah.
And playing that game online as a kid, I was I love that, and bought my first long range rifle.
What'd you get?
I bought a Haenel RS8.
Yeah, okay.
The German police, I think, basically an ACIS platform, fully floating. Bought that in 300 Win Mag just for that payload delivery. This is even before I started doing reloads, and strapped an 8-32 Night Force on it. Went down to Little River. All right, this is this mill hole. This is what this means. This is what it is. Third round out of the gun after sighting in, hits the 500 gong. Okay. Well, there's no challenging anymore. There's immediately boring. So, got onto a private range, started doing further and further and further, and hitting 16-inch gongs like cold, just straight out. Just it should be roughly there. Yep, bang out to 15, 1100, and it's like
how did
this
you
is my fun.
learn how
just
to
loved
do
it.
that?
it was really just
Was it people around you or?
yeah. I had a couple of mates that were fairly into that.
I assume
into that
YouTube
sort of
wasn't a
thing.
big thing on.
YouTube wasn't like
it
YouTube
didn't
was
really
not really
yeah.
a part thing. I had a couple of older guys that were things, and one of them was an ex-sniper, Australian sniper, and he kind of like, yeah, this is what this means, this is what this means. So kind of like guided me through it.
Yeah.
But
Got the
yeah,
basic.
just started getting out, and when I was in the gun shop, you know, back when projectiles and powder were cheap, you know, I'd you know, you'd pay $35 for a, you know, 2213 SC, and you know, pack of 210 grain Nosslers were $60. You know,
Stop teasing people, mate.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so
What a time to be alive.
that was retail, not what I paid. So, you know, back in those days, it was much cheaper. So, you know, I'd go down to the range and dump, you know, 200 rounds of 300 Win Mag, and like,
That
yeah, no
poor
worries.
Win Mag. Did it ever get cleaned?
I'm surprised that gun's not pregnant. How it got some serious abuse, that gun. So, yeah, no, you know,
A lot of loads.
A lot of loads, and then it was so I did a lot with that 300, and then I remember a customer had come in with a trade in, and he had a 5R Remington 700,
Yep.
and
I remember those.
he brought it in. Oh, this is this, and it was the first time I'd ever seen it. I was just like, mate, how much do you want for it? And he basically wanted the equivalent of like a slab of beer, basically. For
Yeah.
it. He had lost his license. He had to get rid of his guns, and it was kind of just like, hey, just get rid of it. So I bought that 3-hour weight, and then I dumped 3,000 rounds through that gun in about 5 years, and I was just like, okay, I'm just so confident with this. I shot everything with it. Ended up the barrel needed replacing. Sold that gun to somebody else, and then it was always like my passion. But then that led into handguns, and so I've just started getting back into that long range stuff. Just pulled all the dies out, pulled the 300 out, put a new muzzle brake on it.
Oh yeah.
You know, took the scope off, serviced it, put it back on. Like, all right, we're going to start doing this again.
Ready to go.
You know, the fox hunting, you know, as you know, that shooting those red dogs is just, it's just so addictive. Like,
Clip on the front of the Win Mag and away you
it's
go.
so addictive. You just go out in the night and you're like, you wake up so tired the next day and you're just
Yeah, especially those school nights. That's rough.
school nights are rough.
Yep.
Yeah, nice.
Started doing once again, a real dad thing to do. Put my kids to bed at 7 o'clock instead of 8:30 because they don't know the time difference. just so I can,
savings a thing.
Yeah, just so I can go shooting earlier.
Just
so,
running around the house, changing all the clocks. He does it. It's 8.
yeah,
it's 7
dude, it's
o'clock, you gotta
8:30.
go
Going to bed.
Like,
Yeah.
Why is the sun up? Because the neighbour didn't put it away. Just go to bed.
Set it to
You know?
9 o'clock and be like, you're late to bed. Like, this, get to bed.
Hurry up.
Dude, I should have put you to bed ages ago. Don't tell your mum about it. Go to bed.
Get to bed.
You know, and then they're in bed by 6:30, and then let's go shoot some foxes.
Hell yeah.
It's great stuff.
I don't have kids, but yeah, I like it.
now I want to know the tips.
Max was going to do that, and then
First kid, it's going to be like,
I'm going to do that to Caitlin. I'm just going to change. Oh, babe, it's your bedtime. I'll be in there in a minute.
yeah.
Oh, good plans. Well, Mark, thanks for joining us. Thanks for sharing
Thanks for
your
having me.
knowledge, and I'm sure we'll see you back here. Yeah.
Yep.
No doubt about
That's
it.
it.
Everyone will
Max,
be-
anyone you want to thank? No, that's all right. All right.
Someone with an R, I think, but I can't remember. It doesn't matter. They won't mind.
Oh, shout out
Richard.
to Rachel.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Rachel,
Richard.
Rick.
Richard.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for
Yeah.
tuning in. We'll
Thanks.
talk
See
to
you on the
again
next
soon.
one.